having the biggest Michael Jordan card in existence will be on display in a museum one day, similar to the Declaration of Independence is. It's going to have that level of rarity and importance on the history of this country. So I would look at what those things did in times of bad economy. Did a Leonardo da Vinci painting, did the Mona Lisa lose value when the economy was bad? Did the Declaration of Independence lose value when the economy was bad? I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but I doubt it.
Show me the rarities, rarities. 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 Show me the rarities.
All right, Chris.
Rarities.
Goats and Gold podcast, straight up. This is my favorite shit. This
First episode with the new name,
Yeah.
Goats and Gold.
is the illest thing. Who made the logo?
Do we have a logo yet?
I don't know.
I
but
saw the
if
one
you don't have a
Ryan
logo,
made.
put a whole, just make it just a goat.
Pop it up right now.
And
Bang.
Ryan's got,
The logo's fire.
Yeah. This is my favorite shit. I've been studying different assets forever. I want to understand them. And I have 10,000 hours in of understanding the markets and gold and all the analogies all the experts make. And I stay in that world because it helps me learn how to look at this stuff. And so when I met you, it helps me start to put the card business in perspective, similarities and differences and so on. And I find myself in these conversations with you, and it's like, these are my favorite combos, bro. So
Yeah,
goats and gold.
I love this shit too, bro. It comes down to that's what we end up talking about the majority of the time. We're talking about our industry. It's goats and fucking gold, dude.
What's cool is some people just want to flip cards. I tip my hat to them. It's awesome. But you go down the rabbit hole. You like to understand the plumbing behind the industry, the sustainability of the industry. You don't do it as a hobby. It's a business for you and for me. And that's what allows us to partner up. But I don't get to run into a lot of people who have the same passion. Like 10,000 hours in of studying the gold and silver market. Like, who does that? I do. I love it. That's my piece. I don't have to talk anymore. I can just sit and listen. And then all that thinking, I get to use the same thinking now when I get to talk to you about sports cards. Yeah. And then I ask you questions and you fucking, you know the history of the hobby and then the sports too. That's how we make our picks. Yeah. So yeah, it goes well. I want to start off with something. So the big thing about gold is that there's an engine underneath gold. It's this relentless bid. Like there's a floor on how low the prices can go. Why? Because countries are continuous buyers and it's not going to stop. Well, why isn't it going to stop? It's not going to stop because countries need to store in something that actually holds its value. Right. Countries don't have $10,000. They have $10 billion or $100 billion.
Right.
And so they can't lose 2, 3, 4, 5% a year to inflation and all this stuff. And also they can't have their money in something that's being overproduced. So anyway, relentless bid underneath the gold that keeps a floor on how low the price can go. And last thing, Hong Kong and all these different places, they're setting up shop to be able to transact in gold. They're not doing that because it's the new hot thing. That's not setting up a stand to sell chicken sandwiches because hot chicken is hot around our way. Like that's forever.
Yep.
When you set up a data center and all of that, like that's for 30 years. When you buy a uranium contract, 30-year contract, you plan on creating nuclear 24/7 baseload energy. So why am I saying that? Michael Rubin, to me, is doing things that are not just meant for a quick buck. He's monopolizing this thing, but he's putting hella capital behind it. He's got the fanatics and he's got the contracts and he's going to court. And I just feel like it makes me feel, at least, that there's at least 5-10 years out. This is for the long term. It's got the similar makings of something that's really being built out for the long term because of what Rubin's doing. Can you speak to that a little bit about like how Michael Rubin is involving himself in this, or just what you think about the card, the sustainability of cards? Like, it's not a fluke.
Yeah, I don't think it's a fluke. I think that he positioned himself really nicely to be extremely innovative and creative in the industry. He started off with getting Fanatics, and the first thing he did was obtain the contracts to create the game-worn jerseys and uniforms for the MLB, the NFL, the NBA. So he's now manufacturing the uniforms that the players are wearing. And what does that do? That's the stuff they put in the cards. That's how you get the game-worn memorabilia. That's what makes these cards valuable. One of the biggest things that people had a problem with Panini was the back of the card says, this patch is not from any game, or this patch is not from any player or a specific player or event, meaning it's just a regular jersey. It wasn't used by a player. It had no attachment to any game or any player, opposed to Topps, you'll see on the back of the card, this patch is officially licensed, or this is a game worn, or this is a player worn patch. So right there, it's tied to the player. It's an official game worn or player worn piece of
It's like
memorabilia.
one of the first steps he takes. There's all these steps that ultimately arrive at like, I'm taking over this card business.
Right.
And
So
then
now he can come up with the ideas to what to put on the jerseys. One of the big things he did, one of the biggest things, and now it's now one of the biggest cards in the industry. Everyone's talking about it right now with the new Topps update dropping. What's everyone chasing? The Cooper Flag debut patch. That's a Michael Rubin idea. Every time a rookie plays their first game in any league, we're going to put a patch on their jersey for just that one game that says NBA debut or MLB debut. And then when they're done playing the game, we're going to rip it off the jersey and we're going to put it in the card and we're going to have them sign it. And now that card goes for multi-million dollars depending on the player. Same thing he did with the NBA Finals. We're going to put a patch on the net of the NBA Finals that says NBA Finals. And then we're going to take that patch off the net when the game's over and we're going to put it in a card. Multi-million dollar card. MVPs, award winners, Offensive Player of the Year, MVPs. We're going to make the MLB logo or the NFL logo on the jersey gold and black, only for the people who won them awards. What are we going to do? Take it off the jersey and put it in a card. So now he's creating multi-million dollar cards in the industry, huge, monstrous chase cards that everyone's hunting for. So what's that do? Create demand for the product.
And he's got control over everything. Are these the decisions that somebody makes that's just trying to look and make a quick buck off an industry?
No, this is someone that's setting up for decades and decades out. I think with all these hedge funds getting into it, and we talked about this earlier, and all these billionaires getting out there, you spoke a little bit to it, and you said there's hedge funds out there that manage multi-billion-dollar accounts, hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And these companies are looking towards advocating 10% of their portfolio to these alternative assets.
I think it'll move up to 10%. I think it'll happen quickly. We'll talk about it. But even if it's 5% or 2%, 100 billion, 10% is 10 billion.
10 billion.
So 5% is 5, and it's just like.
And let's say there's hundreds of these hedge funds that are doing so, and if each one's putting 5 to 10 billion in the industry, you're not just going to do that overnight, right? You're going to do that over the course of time. Even if you're buying cards that are $10 million a piece, like we've seen Shine and Mr. Wonderful with the Wonder Index, the Shine Wonder Index, they've now bought their 4th public card over $10 million. So even if you're buying cards at that rate and at that capacity, it's going to take you some years to invest $5 to $10 billion. So I think just off those hedge funds and those multi-billion-dollar companies and multi-billion-dollar business moguls getting into it, that sets you up for a 5 to 10 year run of billions and billions of dollars being influxed into this industry. And as they start buying up these big cards, it's only going to make the ones that are still available go up in price. Because what are they going to do? They're going to buy them, they're going to put them in a vault. They're not going to trade them. They're going to put them in a vault for 5, 10, 15, 20 years at a time. They're going to come off the market. And there's a very finite number of how many of these big, monstrous Jordan autos, Kobe autos, LeBron autos, Tom Brady cards. There's not a ton of them out there in terms of other assets, you know? So they're going to start picking them things up, and they're going to start taking them up off the market, and they're going to become very scarce very quickly, and it's only going to make the market on the value go up.
Yeah. Another point is, like, there's a lot of decisions that are decisions you can kind of go back on. Like if Rubin wants, I guess he can like sell all of this, which doesn't sound very likely.
No.
But I'm conservative, and also like all the moves he's making sound like these like data center, nuclear energy, like 30-year moves, right? Set up clearinghouses for gold, 30-year moves. That's what this sounds like.
Yep.
But I'm only looking 5, 10 years out. I'm like the guy with the headlights that can see 10 feet in front of you. But I'm like, I think we got a good 5 years at this. And then I see something like Rubin makes another big decision. Kind of a one-way door decision, like no way out. I'm selling the Sixers.
Exactly.
so that I can fucking have my interest in Topps, right? Because you can't do both.
Yeah, so they said it was a conflict of interest to own Fanatics and Topps and the Sixers. So he chose that over being an owner of a.
These are the
NBA team.
tells for me, like what's going on underneath. And I'm like, okay, this is a guy that's gearing up for the long haul. Now, we talked about allocation, hedge funds allocating money into this stuff.
Yep.
And something I think is really cool is this. It's a small market. You look at market size. Silver is a small market. I forget the size. Was it 10 billion, 40 or 50 billion? Card market is probably similar to silver, very, very small. And I don't know the exact size of the card market, but when you have all these pools of capital, big hedge fund, institutional money flowing into this, because now it's deemed an alternative asset class. You can open 401ks to this stuff, retirement funds.
Yep.
All these guys are going to flood into the same stuff. They're going to flood into the GOATs.
Yep.
Because they're safe. And like, here's what's crazy. Usually when you get like an old dog of a stock that's reliable, like a blue chip, it goes up 6-7% a year. I've said this before. When it comes to these GOATs, the guys that can't get injured, probably not going to spoil their reputation. Like not much is going to change. Usually that kind of reliability and stability means low appreciation.
Yeah.
That's not what's happening at all.
No, they're doing that.
Is it
in
not?
a month.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, they're doing that 7-10% a month, 15-20% a month.
15-20% a month. And it's like,
We just bought a Kobe Bryant card, LeBron James Kobe Bryant card. It's up 225% over the last year.
yeah.
That's what the GOATs are doing.
What did we say the other day would be the reason that no tree grows straight to the sky, but it goes up and to the right for sure? What slows this down? I think if something happens with the PSA, people
Yeah,
be
like
like,
you
yo,
said.
hold on, the integrity of this entire fucking system that we're so reliant on to value these cars properly is at stake. That's where you see a sell-off. Like if there's something going on with a mining company in Mexico and there's some political risk going on, people fall back. The stock sells off crazy. I don't really see cards selling off just yet. So I can't really, the analogy, the way it goes in the mining industry so far, a little different. People are fucking still full steam ahead.
Yeah, people lose faith in the intermediary. People lose faith in the company that's setting the value on these cards pretty much with the grades. I mean, yeah, I think that could curtail it for sure. But if that does happen, I think so right now PSA's in the midst of a pretty big lawsuit. It's pretty big news. Everyone's talking about it. It's a huge class action lawsuit. As far as I understand, and just from the information I heard, there was a pretty big businessman. He had a Mickey Mantle rookie card, and he had it graded, and it graded much lower than he expected. I think it got a 6 or a 7 or an 8, something like that. And his argument was that his card was in better condition than the PSA 10s in existence. And there's not many of them. I forget what the exact number, 3, 4 Mickey Mantle rookie PSA 10s, and they're $100 million cards. I mean, $50, $100 million cards. They're crazy. They never even trade. Who knows what they're worth? Whatever it is, it's ridiculous. But they gave him a low grade, and he's basically saying they're gatekeeping. He brought the light that the first T206 Honus Wagner that was graded, another $100 million plus card, was trimmed, and they knew about it, and they overlooked it, and that they're gatekeeping the value, gatekeeping the grades on these cards to keep the value up on the ones that are scarce and all this stuff. And you hear a ton of horror stories. All these people are coming out of the woodworks and coming out of the blue to explain horror stories that happened to them and things that just sound completely shady. And it's like a $3-4 billion plus lawsuit. So, and it's a federal RICO, from my understanding. So stuff like that, yeah, maybe that affects it. But I think they will put some sort of regulations in place that curtails that behavior, and then the faith is regained because, all right, the government's stepping in, higher officials or whoever it is stepping in, and they're now making it so they can't do these slimy things, and now the faith is back because someone else is watching them, has the spotlight on them.
I kind of wish the market would sell off, but it's not. It's too hot. Because if it did, we know.
We'd buy more.
Slap them with a fine, reinstill faith, we're back at it. The Strait of Hormuz opens up again, oil prices come down, economy can rip.
Right.
But in the meanwhile, everything's depressed and we can scoop.
Exactly.
But unfazed, the market completely unfazed by this shit.
Yep.
So you see how when I look at the history of some of this other stuff that I've been studying for a long time, just out of curiosity and trying to learn, it really helps inform me for when I look at The sports card industry, it's a new asset class. Now, it's so new. So to a lot of people, to us at least, we're like, yo, we're late to the game. But you know what I'm realizing, dude? What I think is it's right here in front of our face, right in front of my nose, you know? But it's like there's so many people out there that they haven't been introduced to this yet.
Well, I mean, I guess it all depends to where it goes. I mean, we'll find out in 5 to 10 years from now how late or how early we were. I mean, I think the earliest people to the market were, you know, in this thing 10, 15, 20 years ago. There's guys that are sitting on Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and Tom Brady cards that they paid a couple $100 for that are worth a couple 100,000, $250,000, $1 million. And then there's people that got in early and back in 2020 when the real boom started. And same thing, they're sitting on cards that they paid a couple grand for that are $250,000.
A lot of the COVID guys out there that are in for 2K that now their cards are worth 10, a $2,000 card worth 25 and 30, like overnight millionaires.
Yeah, I've seen way bigger than that.
It's like Bitcoin 2020.
Yeah.
You know, when people owned it at 2020, where were we at there? 35,000 in the 20s and 30. Thing goes up to 120K. Yep. You know, a lot of millionaires made. And then the guys, the earlier adopters that got in, you know, $10, $100 a coin. The super early ones. So I'm trying to make the comparison. Bitcoin now only 17, 18 years old. This industry is not brand new, but the real wave, other than the super early guys who are like the very first, the hobbyists, the enthusiasts, you know, we're 10 years in, 2027, 8 years in.
I've seen stories of guys that they have like Michael Jordan exquisite cards back from like the early 2000s. They were buying them boxes for, you know, I don't know, 1,000, 1,500 a pop, and they pull Michael Jordan patch autograph cards that are worth $1 million now.
Yep.
Crazy numbers.
See, the universe introduces this stuff to me in such weird ways. That's just the way I see it. Like, I got introduced to this. I used to collect hockey cards. I had this Gretzky thing, and I went and got the magazine, but I was so young, dude, that I couldn't, like, really, it was like looking at a fucking encyclopedia. Like, there's so many cards, and you're looking at this grid with pricing. Yeah. It's just too much for me, you know? And so, like, I couldn't really find the exact card. There was so many brands and kinds, even back then, that I did away with it. If only I had the head to put myself through the hard work of figuring it out, I could have became super involved in the hobby. I ended up giving away all my stuff. Probably had, I don't know, some good money in hockey cards, though, you know? And my brother basketball cards the same.
Yeah, if you have basketball cards from the era you're talking about, it was probably worth crazy money because you had Jordans, you had Kobe's.
Now, because of my inability to want to learn and really dig deep into something, because I was a young guy. I tried to get my daughter to dig deep into stuff, but I was a young guy. I'm buying those cards now at 10. I don't know. I'll buy them at $1,000 now, and I owned it for, you know, what the cost of a pack of cards was back when. Yeah. We do this with coins too. You know, people buy American Silver Eagles right now in a graded MS-70. The 1986 is worth, you know, call it $1,200. 1990 4K, 4,500. Yep. These are coins that you could have got for the price of an ounce of silver way back when. So it's pretty cool, man. As I get a little bit older, I realize like the value of things that are collectible, keeping them in their condition. Yeah, very cool industry, man.
It's crazy, man. I mean, just cards in general, collectibles in general, not even just like the sports cards. Like the Pokemon cards are crazy. It's all crazy. I remember being a little kid, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, collecting Pokemon cards, and I remember going into like Kmart or CVS, and when you got up to the counter, your mom did her shopping for her food, and you got up to the counter, and on the counter there would be the booster box with the packs in it, $5 a pack. And it would be like, I don't know, 25, 30 packs in there. There would be one that was open that already had a couple packs next to it, and then they'd have the sealed ones right behind the register for when them ones ran out. And them sealed booster boxes now, I remember they were going for like $120. I remember my mom used to buy them for me for Christmas, buy them for me for my birthday. Every time we were at CVS, I'd get a couple packs, but on my birthday and Christmas, she would get the whole booster box for me, the whole thing. And they were like $125, $150 at the time. And things sealed today, $50K. $50K for a sealed box, Jesus. A base set Pokemon from the year 2000. It's crazy.
Yeah. The hard part is, even though we know history, is thinking about and believing what these things will be worth later, only because of the price tag. Just like in dollar terms, you'll be like, you mean to tell me this card is going to be, the one that's $25K now is going to be $250,000? And like,
Yes.
by all accounts, yeah.
Yes.
If you study the plumbing and history and how these assets appreciate, yes. And I went through it with houses. You mean to tell me this house, $158,000, is going to be worth $350 some years from now? You mean to tell me the S&P 500 is going to hit 700? In 2020, I was talking to a client who had a lot of experience in the markets, and the S&P was in the 300 range. He's like, Jonathan, one day, very wise man. He's like, you're going to see $700 SPY. And I just started making money. I was thinking to myself, man, if God blesses me where I can make 1, 2, or 300,000 and put it in there, compound interest, and it gets to 700, I'll have, and like here we are beyond that. And so I know that all those things, but I'm still looking at the cards and I'm like, this thing's going to be worth 150K. But Chris and I are sitting there looking at it for 15 G's and we're like, is it the right move? Yeah. And like, I've watched so many people go through that. This Bitcoin is going to go to $1 million, and you're wondering if you missed the boat at 25K because we're sitting at 65. So it's like, speak about that a little bit. You know these things are going up. I mean, if anyone has the conviction, it's you, but how come we still will think about the difference of $3,000 or $4,000 on a price tag?
I mean, I just saw a card the other day. I remember a very specific card. Kobe Bryant, Contenders Optic, cracked ice. I forget the exact year. Maybe is it 2019, 2020? It's either 2020, 2021. But Kobe Bryant, Contenders, cracked ice auto. And I remember back in 2021, 2022, I was looking at buying this card for in between $5,000 and $6,000. I was in negotiations with someone. The last comp on it at the time was like $5,000. I was trying to get it for a little under. He wanted a little over. I ended up walking away from it. I just looked up that card the other day, and it's now selling for $50,000.
How much did it go up?
6K.
$6K
From
to
2022, it went from like $5,500 to like $50K now. Yeah. So like
5 years.
Yeah, that's just going to
10x.
keep 10x, and it's just going to keep happening. The cards that are worth 25K today are these GOATs, are the Jordans, the Bradys, the Kobes, the LeBrons. They're going to be 250K in 2030, 2035.
The only thing that I could think of right now, Chris, is like if something happens with that PSA lawsuit and people doubt the integrity of PSA, because people overreact, we'll see the market sell off and see like. We'll be sitting there with the cash. Like the waves come back around again when things get depressed. Like right now, like I'm buying silver again, and like we're gonna see that 126 silver price. We'll see 200, 250. But like I knew we'd see 250, but I wasn't buying at 100 because I'm watching this thing go up. So I waited for it to consolidate. I watched the charts and I know that 50 is about that support level, and I'm buying again. And so maybe if something happens with the PSA, it sells off. And now that's our wave. We'll be sitting there with the cash to accumulate, and then we can be there for the next run up because we have a 5 to 10 year time horizon. So we're not going to be worried about spending $250,000 at that point.
Yep.
We have time in, experience in, capital to play with, and we could buy our cards then. So it's all like timing the buy as best you can is important. It always gets easier, in my experience, to think 5, 10 years out. Like you could buy the hot, it sorts through all the noise. Buy the hot shit, go to sleep on it. And like, I love that.
I think this thing just has so much steam behind it. Like even if something does happen with PSA, like there's still like raw cards that have crazy value to them. Like if something happens with PSA, it's not going to diminish the value of a raw card. I mean, we just saw that Ohtani card sell for over 10 million raw. That's not a graded card. How would something happening with PSA affect the value of that? It's not graded, Maybe it could affect the value of graded cards or affect the way people view grading cards moving forward or something like that. But like, I don't think it affects the market as a whole.
I don't know if it affects the market as a whole. Does the price of a raw card have to do with what it would grade out for?
No, a raw card is just a raw card. I mean, unless it's damaged. If it's damaged, it could be worth less, but the raw value is the raw value. And then the graded value, there's some standards you follow, like depending on the population, if it's low pop, it can be bigger multipliers than this, but it's normally about 2 to 3x for a PSA 10, the raw value. PSA 10's
The
worth
raw
2 or
value
3x.
sets the standard. The raw value is like your benchmark.
Right.
And then everything is based off of that base price.
And it's changed a lot. It used to always be the raw value, that sets the value. The PSA 10 is worth between that 2 and 3x the raw value, and then a PSA 9 would be somewhere in the middle. Over the last year or two, PSA 9s have become completely devalued. They're worth not much more than raw. It's pretty much like the raw value, and then whatever it costs to grade it is the PSA 9 value. Maybe increases the value $50 to $100 for the PSA 9, and it was never like that. It was always pretty much smack dab in the middle, and then a PSA 8 is always worth about the same as raw, unless it's a vintage card that doesn't grade out and it's very low population and in graded condition. But it's mostly PSA 8 is raw value, PSA 9 is a little bit more valuable, and then PSA 10 is 2 or 3x. But it was always the 9 is somewhere right in the middle of that, and that's changed heavily over the last 2 years.
There was a couple of things I wanted to say, but one thing about gold is that gold will have this 10, 11, or 12% appreciation rate, but over a really long time. So people know they can rely on it through every kind of recession, through issues in office. When things get uncertain, people go to gold. So it's got these chapters in American history that it's really gotten through some tough stuff. But when people buy gold, they're playing defense against what's going on in our country.
Right.
And a lot of really wealthy guys look at holding gold as missing out on alpha or yield somewhere else.
Right.
Oh, I can go make 22% over there.
Yeah.
So then I make 12 here, so I'm actually losing 10.
Right.
And I'm making a comparison between gold and these goats.
It's also less risk, though,
What happens in a depressed economy to the goats? That can cause a little bit of an issue with their price,
It's true.
only because people are spending less.
Right.
Now,
said
a lot of
Black
times in a
Swan.
depressed economy, though, bro, like luxury items don't struggle
Right.
because it's for the fucking wealthy. And this is a K-shaped economy where the rich keep getting richer because they have assets.
Right.
The poor get poorer because prices keep going up and the poor can't afford them. So I'm wondering, and I want to know what you think about that. That in a depressed economy, do the goats get affected, and if so, how bad?
I don't think the cream of the crop, top dollar goats get affected. I think, the lower value stuff would. We've talked about it before, maybe a black swan event, I think you called it, where something crazy happens. That could affect the market as a whole because, people aren't spending money on luxury items, They're spending money on necessities and they're holding their money for, emergencies and stuff like that. Something crazy happens.
That's exactly
There's a
right.
war in the country or something crazy happens. You're not going out and buying sports cards and spending $1 million on that because it's not important at that point, So
But you need resources. You're selling it. Turkey sold gold because they're at war and they needed dollars to buy oil because the strait was closed. Yeah. And so, in a situation like that, when you need resources and stuff, you'll sell the goats.
Exactly.
You don't want to sell your gold. You don't want to sell your goats.
Right.
That's your future value, but you do because you just, because something unexpected happened.
Right. Yeah, I think a depressed economy, you'll see less money going into the new stuff. So for example, a Jackson Dart, a prospect, where when he's playing well as a rookie, you might see his rookie cards hit 20, 30, 40K. They wouldn't do that in a depressed economy. They would hit the lower value, but these goats, these Bradys that are already kind of set in stone and chiseled in history, I don't think there's too much knocking their value down.
I wonder what happens with these goats over time if they withstand an economy if we're right and they withstand some hardship. You're talking something serious. Now the market's on an upswing, so gold will do 12%. Goats, which are stable and consistent, they're not in the league anymore. They can't get injured. They'll do 50, 60%.
Yeah.
If they can withstand the test of time and go through some hard times in the economy, they can become relied on as something that's going to be consistent.
I think.
And then people will buy them. More hedge funds will allocate more funds. I don't think that these guys know how to categorize these things yet.
What I would say is, history always tells the tale of the future. And I think the closest thing you can make a comparison to for these sports cards and what they're going to become is historic treasures, art. So like Picasso paintings, Leonardo da Vinci paintings, like things like the Declaration of Independence, these historic, whatever you want to call them, things like that. That's what like these monstrous Jordan cards and Kobe and LeBron, these big time GOAT cards, I think that's what you're going to compare them to. I think these things are trending towards being literal museum pieces. Like having the biggest Michael Jordan card in existence will be on display in a museum one day, similar to the Declaration of Independence is. It's going to have that level of rarity and importance on the history of this country. So I would look at what those things did in times of bad economy. Did a Leonardo da Vinci painting, did the Mona Lisa lose value when the economy was bad? Did the Declaration of Independence lose value when the economy was bad? I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but I doubt it. I think that's the closest comparison you can make to these monster cards of these GOATs.
There's so few of these things. Now they keep, last thing, right? They keep making cards with the GOATs on them, right? Because in my head, I'm like, this is crazy. There's so few of them. Sports is so ingrained in our society.
Yeah.
Old school teaches the new school. Old school doesn't teach the new school about old, rare, collectible U.S. coins.
Right.
Sports is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Right? So there's new customers being developed. It's going to keep that relentless bid on cards. There's retirement money, 401k money.
Yep.
Calling these alternative assets. They're allocating. There's this performance that we think actually might be able to survive rough times. Not all the cards, but the GOATs.
Yep.
It's overwhelming because I don't, like, where does this thing stop and slow down? They make this chart about these different phases of an asset class, and like we're just, I don't think we're not late. We feel late. We wish we were the early adopters,
right.
But I think we're the early majority. And I'm gonna we'll post a picture of what that chart looks like here on this thing. And it's just overwhelming because there's just a really strong base case for cards for the future.
The market's getting crazy. It really is. Like, it blows my mind just because, I was in it pretty early. I collected in the early 2000s when I was a young kid. I got back into it big in 2019, right before it blew up. And not at the level I am now. I took a small break from it and then got back into it heavy a year or two ago. But like, I've seen everything from the beginning till now, and it's crazy the level it's at right now. It's just exploding. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We saw at the National last year, we were there, and then we saw pictures this year of the lines around the block, 1.5 mile long line, people waiting 2 hours just to get in the building because of how many new people are being infused into this industry. Year over year over year, it's just growing and doubling in size with every day that passes. It's crazy.
Double the size in a rocket ship. I saw this thing the other day that says it takes a rocket 62 miles to get to outer space. And if we go on there's this law of 62. People should look into it. If we go on for 62 months like this, 5 years,
Yep.
I think we're going to be in a fucking different world.
Different world.
With the sports cards.
Different tax bracket for sure.
Like, no doubt. I mean it. We're both really serious about this, and so I get a lot of enjoyment out of studying, and the more I look into it, I'm like, wow, where am I wrong? What am I missing? What am I missing? I'd love to talk to more people about how they feel about the big picture of the sports card industry as a whole.
I think you follow the big money. That's always been the thing.
Follow the institutional money.
Follow the big money, and look at look at how many of these big guys are getting into it.
I'd be curious to see how they categorize this stuff.
Yeah, I think they categorize. We heard Mr. Wonderful say it, and I like using him as an example because I just know he's sharp. I know he's shrewd. Like, you watch him on Shark Tank. He's in the public eye a lot. He's smart as shit. He's shrewd as fuck. He doesn't lose. He doesn't make bad business deals. I've never seen him make one. And he's going all in on this thing, and he explained it as modern contemporary art, modern pieces of contemporary art. And he said that same thing. You would compare it to a Picasso. That's kind of where I got that from, and just thinking about it, I thought it more and more. But yeah, he said that. Think of these things as small pieces of modern contemporary art, like a miniature Picasso.
Is he just talking his book? Just trying to big up because he owns cars and he wants to promote them. Kevin O'Leary's getting older and he's very smart. He's everything you said he is, but maybe he's just in it to make his buck and get out. But then again, what's underneath? I don't know if you go ahead and make an index unless you're trying to make a stamp on an industry. You don't make an index if you're going to get in, make some money, and get out.
That's what I'm saying.
Another one of those things that I think gives some sustainability to this. Because when I look at Kevin, I'm like, you're 70-some years old, and you can retire and sell off, and you're just making your buck off the sport card hobby by, using your network or your platform. But not if you're creating an index and you're trying to track the asset.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's planning on selling them cards anytime soon. Not, at least I don't believe so. Like you said, they're creating an index for it. That's years out. They're planning that thing to build this crazy collection far into the future. That's going to be huge in value. And yeah, like, is he talking up his own book because he's got money into it? Yeah, but I don't think you put the amount of money into it that he did just to try and put money into something I don't believe in and then talk it up and get out.
I think the main point is, like, look at all the structure that people are building when it comes to something to see how serious they are about it.
Yep.
You don't build all this stuff up around you if it's just going to be a flash in the pan fluke for you.
Exactly.
Good shit, bro.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Good combo, dog.
Yo, 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 Clarity